Welcome into Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts with CPA and personal financial specialist, Phil Putney. Now let's get rolling with today's show.
Phil, why do I need an advisor? That is the topic of conversation this week here on the podcast. We got a listener question in who asked this, and it's a very fair question, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So let's debate it a little bit, talk about this week. You've managed your money successfully. Why do you need somebody else to do it? So let me set you up with the question here,
Okay.
and then we'll dive in. I've managed my money myself for many years. I think I've done pretty well. Everybody tells me that I should have a financial advisor now that I'm getting really close to retirement, but I have trouble with the concept of turning it over to somebody else since
Sure.
I've proven I can do it. What's your argument, Phil, for why I should have someone like you manage it for me, right? So great question.
Completely understandable. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a few things. So reason number one, right?
Mhm.
And we've said this a million times, but we're going to say it a million and one. Accumulation is different
Yep.
than preservation and distribution. And I've been talking with advisors, Phil, for 10 years.
Mhm.
And I got countless hundreds of stories of the same exact thing where people will often be like, I've done a good job. I've built a pretty good nest egg.
Right.
And then they start to get right into retirement and they start to see the different pieces that are coming and they go, crap. There's a lot more than I realized, right?
Oh,
So let's start there.
So, I mean, that's probably the number one comment I get as I meet with prospective clients that have, attended a class and we talked about Social Security and taxes.
Yeah.
And we start to kind of build this out is that I had no idea
Yeah.
there was this involved. There were this many moving parts, right? Because when you think of it, when you're saving for retirement, it's pretty straightforward, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you got a 401k. Here's the limited series of funds that you can invest in.
Yeah.
And
I mean, even if you dabbled, even if you dabble in other stuff, like
Right.
it's still not as complicated. And especially if you only worked a job for 40 years and pumped into the 401k, even if it's a nice big nest egg, you really didn't do a whole lot of complicated stuff.
Right. There's just not that many moving parts.
Right.
It's pretty straightforward in what you do. And I mean, the story is save as much as you can, right?
Right, yeah.
Accumulate, let it grow. And at the end of the day, you've done a great job.
Absolutely. Kudos,
But
right?
Now how do we unwind this? How do we turn
Yeah.
all this accumulation that you've generated into income? Because I mean, that's what retirement is about now, is you need to replace that income that you were used to. And that's a whole nother game, right? It's completely different because, and we've talked about this many, many times, just the one simple thing is returns, right? Your goal as you're accumulating is grow the nest egg. So as long as you're comfortable with that volatility, hey, it doesn't affect me. I understand I'm a buy and hold and ride through it. And, you're there, right? So you don't have that time horizon of not touching the money because it's your income stream. You
got drawdowns, right?
Right. So
now you got the taxation of that, right?
Sequence of returns risks you got to be conscious of, but you can't take everything and move it too conservative because you still have to deal with long-term inflation. To your point of, okay, I've accumulated money in all these different buckets and where do I spend from first? Do I take it from the IRA or do I wait? Do I take it from taxable monies?
Yeah.
Well, I'll take it from Roth because that's tax-free, but
and we'll talk about that one in a second too, right?
Right.
So the reason one is just they are completely different animals.
Yeah.
They really are, right? And then reason two is you just touched on it. The stakes are higher, right?
Yeah.
You just can't, look at what's happening in the market here. We're in April, right? Look at what's been happening the first quarter or so of this year. Just kind of like last year, really volatile. It's to start out, people panicking. Now, last year ended off great, but we have no idea how this year will end. But every time we're in one of these scenarios, if you're a DIYer, it's maybe doesn't bother you because you're 45 now. But what if you're 60 right now?
Right.
It scares the crap out of you.
Yeah, you're looking at that nest egg and a 5% drawdown in the market. You're thinking, I just lost how much?
Yeah.
I can't do that. I've got to get out. Well, no, not necessarily. That could be the wrong answer. That tells me you probably shouldn't have been positioned where you were to begin with, at least with all the money.
Yeah.
It's the stakes are much higher now. And it's not just with the investment. There's a lot of different moving parts. I mean, Social Security, right? So there's all these decisions you're having to make that you're locked into them. Once you make it, it's a permanent decision. Pension decisions. If you have a pension, do I take the lump sum? Do I take, surviving benefit. No, but I mean, all these different options.
Permanent decision for the permanent vacation. Although some people say permanent vacation is actually death. So, but I'm just talking about retirement.
That long-term vacation.
Yeah, let's talk about number three, which really is the complexities. So let's just hit some complexities, right? And I'll throw you a whole smorgasbord, then you just go what you want. But you mentioned it: Social Security timing, Medicare, RMDs, tax efficient withdrawal sequencing, healthcare costs, estate planning, IRMA surcharges. Go where you want to go, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's all these different moving parts, and in class, I always draw these circles, these three interconnected circles. They're everyone has them. We've got income of some sort, at least Social Security,
right?
And some people have pensions and Social Security. Everyone's accumulated money, hopefully, at some IRAs, 401ks, Roth, whatever it is, non-taxable money, the brokerage accounts.
Yep.
And there's taxes. And all three of those are going to intersect. And as you change one, it changes the other. And, so you have to figure out, what is my strategy? Not what did my brother-in-law do or my colleague do? And for me, what's the best fit of those for my scenario? What should my asset mix look like from an investment standpoint, but also from a tax standpoint? So should I have everything in tax-free? Should it all be in tax-deferred? Should I have tax? I mean, what is that mix? You've got the three different buckets you can go in: the taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-free.
Yeah.
How should that mix be for you? And what's right for you isn't the same thing that should be right for maybe your brother or somebody else because of your scenario. It's different.
But Phil, I read that, if I move everything to Roth, I won't have to pay any taxes, so I can do conversions, and we're historically low tax rates. So I'm just going to convert all of this at one time and get myself set, right? Things like that are all out there.
Oh, and then go on social media or Google and start searching, and you're going to get.
Yeah, and then what you didn't find out is that 2 years from now, when I mentioned IRMA, for example, your Medicare goes up because you had too much income 2 years ago, and you're like, wait a minute, that happened 2 years ago.
Yeah, no one talked to me about IRMA.
I didn't know there was a 2-year look back or whatever, right? So. So Roth conversions, right? That is a big one right this minute where hopefully there's enough information and people realize, hey, if you're thinking about this and you're a DIYer, and again, that's the point of this person's conversation, is that if you are doing this, A, you're doing them correctly so that you don't screw yourself up, but B, that you are not doing too much, that you are understanding tax brackets and filling those things up so that you don't pop a bracket, right?
Right. Well, and so taxes is something interesting because the thing with taxes is most people want to look at them in the short-term view, right? We're always, and that's, frankly, that's how we've been trained, right? All our life, what do you look at? I got a refund this year. Oh, I owed money this year. It's always this year. And I always say, if you're making your tax decisions with that lens, you're going to get the wrong answer every single time because you have to look down the road a long way to see what does this look like down the road when I reach my, RMD age, when I've maximized Social Security or whatever your scenario is. I mean, you mentioned IRMA. I hear a lot of times, people like, oh, I don't want to hit the IRMA bracket. It's like, okay, well, have you run the numbers to see what happens when you've delayed Social Security, you've got the maximum Social Security, now you're going to have RMDs. Oh, by the way, you're in IRMA permanently. The rest of retirement now. So it's another tax. Don't be afraid of it. Don't try to avoid it. Understand it.
Yeah.
And maybe avoid it if it's right for your scenario, but just understand where it fits.
Yeah.
What happens when one of you passes away and now the surviving spouse is not married but single, tax brackets get condensed. And oh, by the way, the IRMA brackets get cut in half too. So you might have never been in IRMA, but if you passed away, now your spouse is.
Great point.
So there's all these different factors complexities that you've got to look at and understand, which most people, they don't understand. They don't do this.
And that's fine. That's
their
okay.
one and only time in retirement, hopefully.
Exactly, right?
As an advisor, I do this every day.
Right.
This is what I see over and over again. So I know what to look for. I know kind of that long-term vision. That's what I can bring that probably you as an individual, a DIYer, just hasn't done, right? You've never seen it.
The Tax Smart Retiree is your comprehensive guide to mastering tax efficiency for a flourishing retirement. you will find indispensable advice and actionable strategies designed to enhance tax savings, maximize Social Security benefits, protect against market volatility, and develop a customized retirement plan. To get your free ebook, click the link in the show notes of today's episode and download your copy of The Tax Smart Retiree right now.
Yeah, you never seen it. It's your first retirement. And really that really brings me to kind of closing out with addressing a line in this comment here, which is that people have the fear of turning it over to somebody else, right? And I think that's where people who have been doing it themselves, I get that fear, but it has to be a collaborative effort, right? If you're going shopping for an advisor and they're saying, yeah, give me everything, I'll take care of it for you, you don't have to do jack, that's probably a red flag. You're probably in the wrong spot, because this, Phil, does need to be a collaborative effort. So you're not turning it over. You're just letting someone with the credentials and the professionalism do the heavy lifting.
Right. Yeah. So find an advisor you can work with. I mean, if that's somebody's answer, then, and you've been very involved in the process, then it's probably not going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
But you're going to need somebody that's collaborative, that's going to work with you in helping develop and build the plan, and frankly, implement it, because there's things that you just don't understand, you've not done, that we as an advisor can do.
Yeah.
And with that in mind too, I mean, to me, the biggest consideration in that is, maybe you're the one that enjoyed it, right? You've, run the numbers all your life, you handle the finances for the household. You've enjoyed it even, right? Kind of watching the numbers grow and accumulate. And, you've kind of built out even your own plan of this is what things might look like in retirement. What happens if something happens to you? Does your spouse understand any of that?
Yeah. And do they want to?
Probably not. And do they want to? Probably not. I mean, all they know is that, hey, there's money in the bank and this is what we're doing, and they can spend and they live the life that they want to and enjoy in retirement. And that's what they should be doing. Yeah. And you even have to ask yourself that, is that, okay, when you're working, this is almost like another hobby to do, but is that something you really want to do in retirement?
Yeah.
Do you want to be glued to the computer screen and the news every day and, be just absorbed with that? Or do you want to go find what you really like to do in retirement? We talked about volunteering, getting involved with that. Do you have grandkids, kids, you want to be more involved in their, I mean, there's all these different things that you can do in retirement. Is this what you really want to do and spend your time with?
Well, so did we make a compelling argument out there for the listener question, right? As to why to use somebody else? I think we did. I think there's a lot of stuff, you can get cheesy with the cliches. You don't know what you don't know, the unknown unknowns, it's easier to climb a mountain than it is to come back down. Right. There's all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I think it just breaks down to, first of all, ask yourself, do you really want to do it? To Phil's point, does your spouse really want you to do it, or do they want to do it and take it over when you're gone? And do you want to maybe screw up someplace where it could be pretty costly, right? Because you just never done this before. So hopefully, Phil, we made a decent argument.
Yeah. I mean, finding the right advisor, it's a challenge, right? It takes time. Don't just jump into it. But I would encourage you, even if you are a DIYer, to explore that, right? To go to some classes. Don't go to the dinner seminars. I mean, if they're trying to sell you something, go to educational type classes. Yeah. Get some knowledge to understand, first of all, what you don't know, the kind of the things that you haven't even thought of. Yeah. But then that'll help you get in front of a couple of advisors to kind of see what this process looks like, and meet with a couple of them to get the understanding. Because I think that's the other thing with a lot of DIYers, is they have maybe this stigma of, and maybe they've been burned, right? I've met with several clients like that, they did it themselves for a while. They hired an advisor and it did not go well for whatever reason. So they took it back, and I've tried that before, right? Oh, try it again. Yeah. You probably got the wrong one, obviously, at that point.
Vet the process a little bit.
And
look, and I get the irony of me saying this, but don't just watch 10 or 15 YouTube clips and think you have it figured out, or watch 10 or 15 YouTube clips and think you have somebody else figured out, right? One of the reasons we do this, is it is to share Phil's information, but it's also to get people to understand, you maybe watch 10 or 12 episodes and you're like, okay, this person maybe resonates with me. Now I'm going to go to one of Phil's classes. I'm going to attend one of those and see how see if I like that content. I'm going to go in for a consultation or a meeting. It's all designed to help, bring about like, okay, this might be the right person for me. That vetting process, right? Don't just go on to FINRA.org and, or brokercheck.org and check their credentials, which you should do that too.
Right. It's one of the things for sure. But
but I mean, like, do a little bit of like you do a little investigation before you buy a house, right? Your realtor didn't show you the first house and you went, yep, this was it.
One.
most probably not, right? You probably, and then even if it hit you emotionally, once you started doing the diligence, you were like, I love it, but there's too many problems with it or whatever, right? So same kind of thing, right, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, there's two skills, so to speak, that an advisor brings to the table. It's the knowledge, right? They have to be able to have the background and the knowledge for what your need is. So first of all, if you're in retirement or nearing retirement, don't look at the accumulation advisor. Go for the advisors that has the experience in that. Somebody that's walked with clients through retirement, understands Social Security, understands taxes, all these different pieces, right? Secondly is then that personal relationship side. I mean, it's got to click, right? Hopefully this is not just a one and done type of thing. Oh, I'm going to get a plan and then I'm on my own.
Right.
It's this long-term relationship that you build this rapport that you're comfortable with and confident now in the recommendations they're giving, and it's got to be that two-way street.
Yeah, for sure. Don't go to the proctologist when you need a podiatrist. You will not be happy with the result. Look, at the end of the day, right, get yourself some help, reach out, hopefully we addressed your question. You worked hard, you built a good nest egg, you earned the right to be skeptical. Absolutely. But do some homework for yourself as well and do some diligence so that you maybe regret that decision 10 years into it or 5 years into it, and maybe make some irreversible decisions that you can't come back from, right?
Right.
So it's worth going out, talking to one, talking to two, talking to three advisors, find the right one for you. That's why they all offer complimentary reviews. Phil does the same. Got links in the descriptions down below. If you need some help, hit him up online, get yourself some time onto the calendar. Of course, this particular person, Phil's team's going to reach out to, but if you're in a similar boat like this person and you need some help, give him a call, reach out to him. Number's been on the screen the whole time, or we'll have all the links in the show descriptions down below, as well as the contact information, 248-888-7530 if you're checking this out in audio form on Apple or Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe to us on those apps or YouTube as well. Phil, my friend, thanks for breaking it down, buddy.
All right. Thanks. Have a good day.
Always appreciate it. Always like the listener questions too, because they're always fun to dissect.
Absolutely. Yep.
So have yourself a good one, folks. We'll be back with more in May right here on Phil's Tax Hacks and other retirement facts.